Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Perkenalkan, saya Anggi yang akan menjadi MC dalam webinar Indigo Creative Nation bekerja sama dengan startup lokal. Tepuk tangan dong teman-teman di rumahnya masing-masing. Gimana nih kabarnya teman-teman semua yang lagi di rumah aja atau dimanapun kalian berada? Semoga selalu dalam keadaan sehat ya. Nah, teman-teman, sebelum saya memulai workshop malam hari ini, saya akan menginformasikan beberapa hal terlebih dahulu nih. Jadi, teman-teman, selamat datang dalam workshopnya Indigo Creative Nation. Mungkin ada beberapa teman-teman nih yang baru pertama kali bergabung dengan eventnya Indigo Creative Nation. Nah, saya akan menginformasikan bahwa Indigo Creative Nation ini menyelenggarakan event itu 3 kali dalam sebulan dengan topik yang berbeda-beda. Nah, untuk workshop yang teman-teman hadiri malam hari ini itu dengan topik hustler, kami bekerja sama dengan startup lokal. Nah, untuk event dengan topik hacker, kami bekerja sama dengan Deep Tech Foundation. Dan untuk topik hipster, kami bekerja sama dengan UX ID Jakarta. Jadi teman-teman silahkan follow Instagramnya @indigo4nation atau Indigo 4 Nation untuk tahu informasi terbaru tentang event-event yang akan kami selenggarakan. Tadi juga Kak Naufal di chat nih nanya nih, ada grup Telegram Indigo untuk info event nggak? Untuk info event sendiri kami selalu mengupdate di seluruh sosial medianya Indigo Creative Nation. Ada Instagram, ada LinkedIn, dan juga ada Facebook gitu. Nah, malam hari ini juga saya akan bagi-bagi banyak sekali hadiah. Makanya tadi saya minta teman-teman untuk follow dulu Instagramnya Indigo 4 Nation atau Indigo 4 Nation. Saya akan membagikan saldo link aja senilai Rp100.000 untuk 15 orang yang beruntung. Nah, cara dapetinnya gimana? Teman-teman pastinya harus punya aplikasi dan juga sudah terregistrasi di link aja terlebih dahulu. Kemudian nanti saya akan pilih 7 orang yang bertanya pada sesi tanya jawab atau sesi Q&A. Kemudian 3 orang yang mendapatkan skor tertinggi, nanti kita ada semacam games-games kecil di sesi interaktif. Dan yang terakhir, 5 orang yang beruntung yang share aha moment atau share keseruan workshop malam hari ini ke Instagram Story dan tag @indigo4nation dan juga startup lokal ID. Jadi dicatat tuh teman-teman, siapa tahu nanti teman-teman berpartisipasi aktif dan mendapatkan saldo link aja senilai Rp100.000. Nah, selain itu juga mungkin teman-teman dari tadi sudah melihat ya di sebelah kanan atau kiri saya nih ada juru bahasa isyarat yang akan membantu teman-teman tuli agar dapat mengakses informasi dengan baik gitu. Jadi silahkan untuk mengikuti workshop ini dengan baik. Semoga informasinya ditangkap semua ya. Nanti kalau misalnya ada yang ingin bertanya, silakan untuk klik raise your hand atau boleh juga mengajukan pertanyaan di kolom chat gitu. Jadi nanti akan saya berikan akses bagi kalian yang raise your hand untuk ngobrol langsung nih dengan speaker kita malam hari ini. Nah, ngomong-ngomong ngobrol dengan speaker, malam hari ini nanti workshopnya akan diberikan atau dipandu dalam bahasa Inggris. Jadi pastikan nanti teman-teman yang ingin bertanya atau berkomunikasi dengan speaker menggunakan bahasa Inggris ya, teman-teman. Dan sebelum kita masuk nih ke sesi inti atau sesi utama, kita akan sesi interaktif dulu nih, di mana tadi saya sudah bilang 3 orang yang mendapatkan skor tertinggi akan mendapatkan saldo link aja senilai Rp100.000. Silakan Kak Audrey untuk tampilkan Mentimeternya. Ya, teman-teman, di layar teman-teman semua ini sudah terdapat menti.com gitu. Jadi silakan boleh diakses aja di www.menti.com, pakai kodenya 5694703. Nah, ini saya tunggu dulu nih teman-teman buat join ke menti.com. Mungkin boleh sambil dinyalakan musik ya, Kak Audrey, biar nggak sepi-sepi banget nih. Kita tunggu. Wah, baru 2 orang nih yang join. Yuk, teman-teman, kita seru-seruan dulu nih, main kuis menti.com. Aksesnya akan saya taruh di kolom chat ya. Yuk, teman-teman. Baru 6 nih yang join. Dari 78 peserta, yang mau dapat saldo link aja cuma 6 orang nih. Yuk, join dulu ke sesi menti.com. Kita seru-seruan bareng nih. Nanti ada pertanyaan tentang workshop malam hari ini juga. Jadi pastikan untuk ikutan sesi interaktif malam hari ini. Oke, nambah terus. Ada yang kesulitan nggak mengakses menti.com? Oke. Saya tunggu sampai 20 orang deh. Oke, sudah 20 orang. Kita langsung mulai aja ya. Buat teman-teman yang masih proses, nggak apa-apa, sambil jalan aja. Kita mulai nih, sesi interaktif. Next, Kak Audrey. Oke, teman-teman. Silahkan dijawab nih. Teman-teman asalnya dari mana aja sih? Ya, kalau saya sih dari Bekasi. Wih, ada teman Bekasi juga nih. Ada Yogyakarta, Bandung, Jakarta. Wih, Bekasi, tim Bekasi banyak ya. Depok, terus Jakarta Timur, terus mana lagi nih? Makassar, Bali, Surabaya, Semarang. Oke, Depok. Kak Sata, langsung join aja ke Mentimeter, Kak. Kita asik-asikan nih di menti.com. Kak Sata langsung akses aja. Nih kodenya ada di layar. Oke, Bogor, mana lagi Jakarta Selatan, Jawa Timur. Oke. Wah, dari mana-mana nih tersebar di seluruh Indonesia. Boleh di next lagi, Kak Audrey, ke next question. Nah, perasaan kalian hari ini gimana sih? Mau workshop bareng Indigo Creative Nation dan juga startup lokal. Oke, excited, senang, lapar. Boleh lo sambil ini bawa cemilan. Kalau misalnya lapar, ya. Terus curious, oke, exciting, luar biasa, happy dong. Kepo, wah saya suka nih yang kepo-kepo. Luar biasa, mantap. Wah, selau kendor. Ini maksudnya apa ya, selau kendor? Oke, nggak bisa bahasa Inggris. Oke, next. Ekspektasi kalian terhadap workshop malam hari ini tuh apa sih gitu? Kira-kira kalian pengen dapetin apa? Misalnya mungkin dapat ilmu baru, dapat koneksi baru gitu, atau mungkin dapat saldo link aja gitu. bisa buat OKR tentunya, mendapat jejaring baru. Oke, dapat jodoh. Ini yang saya bingung kenapa setiap workshopnya Indigo Creative Nation selalu ada jawaban dapat jodoh gitu. Kayaknya ini salah server ya kalau cari jodoh. Oke, can set up OKR. Oke, dapat ilmu. Ilmu. Oke, ini wah link aja. Nah, ini pemburu hadiah nih kalau mendapatkan saldo link aja. Pacar baru ini setipe ya sama cari jodoh. Point of view baru. Oke. Banyak ya yang pengen dapat ilmu dan koneksi baru. Nih, oke. Next, Kak Audrey. Nah, sebenarnya kalian tuh sudah paham belum sih apa itu OKR? Oke, tahu dong atau belum nih? Atau sedikit tahu, sedikit enggak gitu. Jadi masih bimbang nih. Belum tahu-tahu banget, tapi ya udah tahu dikit gitu. Gimana ya? Jadi kayak masih bingung gitu. Oke, rata-rata pada belum tahu tentang apa itu OKR. Oke, next question Kak Audrey. Nah, tadi kan saya sudah kenalan nih dengan teman-teman. Nah, sekarang saya pengen ngetes nih teman-teman seberapa kenalkah kalian dengan Indigo Creative Nation. Yang sudah follow lama atau sudah mengikuti sosial medianya Indigo sejak lama pasti udah tahu nih jawaban-jawabannya. Next, Kak Audrey. Oke, teman-teman pastikan untuk menggunakan nama asli ya, karena nanti untuk mendapatkan skor tertinggi, kami akan mencarinya di database Goers gitu. Jadi jangan pakai nama-nama samaran karena nanti nggak dapat saldo link ajanya gitu. Jadi tim dari Indigo Creative Nation nanti kesulitan untuk mencari nama asli teman-teman. Jadi silakan untuk menggunakan nama yang sesuai dengan yang teman-teman daftarkan ketika membeli tiket di Goers. Oke, kayaknya udah banyak nih. Kita langsung mulai aja, Kak Audrey, games-nya. Kita untuk menjawab dengan cepat ya, teman-teman. Nah, ini berikut startup binaan Indigo kategori Big Data, kecuali Sinkro, Sonar, atau Amtis. Coba. Ini mah kayaknya nggak bisa nyontek nih kalau udah tinggal 6 detik lagi. Ini tebak-tebak berhadiah aja kalau yang nggak tahu mah. Coba, pada bener nggak ya? Oke. Amtis, yes. 19 orang menjawab benar. Oke, ini yang 10-nya kayaknya tebak-tebak berhadiah nih. Oke, next. Nah, teman-teman yang ikutan kuis ini juga pastinya hanya teman-teman yang yang dari luar Indigo ya. Jadi yang dari dalam panitia atau siapapun itu tidak akan mendapatkan hadiah gitu. Jadi tenang aja, saingan teman-teman berkurang kok gitu, nggak termasuk sama panitia. Ini Han Ji Pyong, siapa ya Han Ji Pyong? Oke, kita baca yang ini aja yang pakai nama asli. Sony Saputra, Rian, sama Desi Setiorini. Oke, next. Kak Hari boleh join aja ke menti.com Kak, biar bisa dapat skor nih. Oke, next. Salah satu kategori startup games binaan Indigo. Butuh Sehat, Ios Production, atau Invest Property. Ini gampang banget loh. Kalau mau tebak-tebak berhadiah juga. Oke, 20 orang menjawab benar. Yang benar adalah Ios Production. Next. Siapa nih yang menduduki 3 teratas? Apakah masih orang yang sama? Oke, sambil loading. Oke, Sony Saputra masih di urutan pertama ini karena Han Ji Pyong ini nama samaran, jadi saya anulir ya. Ini saya tidak anggap. Ada Jadid sama Ruben. Oke, next. Pertanyaan terakhir nih, teman-teman. Untuk menentukan siapakah yang mendapatkan saldo link aja. Oke. Sebutkan komunitas bagian hustler yang bekerja sama dengan Indigo Creative Nation. Wah, saya tadi baru saja sebutkan. Harusnya teman-teman tahu nih jawabannya. Apakah startup lokal, apakah deep tech, apakah UX ID? Ya, pastinya startup lokal. Oke, kita lihat nih pemenangnya, finalnya, siapakah yang mendapatkan saldo link aja. Oke. Oke, ada Jadid Purwaka Aji, Hazrina, Riza, dan juga Desi. Nanti akan dihubungi oleh tim Indigo Creative Nation. Selamat ya untuk para pemenang, saldo link aja senilai Rp100.000. Oke, boleh di close, Kak Audrey. Terima kasih buat teman-teman yang ikut sesi interaktif gitu. Jadi santai aja, malam hari ini kita akan belajar bersama-sama ya tentang apa itu OKR. Gitu. Jadi be active karena pasti akan banyak informasi yang akan teman-teman dapatkan. Nah, tadi kan ada beberapa teman-teman ya yang salah menjawab, tapi kebanyakan juga ada yang sudah mengenal Indigo nih. Nah, gimana kalau kita dengarkan nih sama-sama sambutan gitu atau kenalan lebih dalam nih dengan Indigo Creative Nation yang akan disampaikan oleh Mas Heri Fahrurizal selaku Digital Startup and Community Engagement Officer. Kepada Mas Heri, saya persilahkan.
Halo teman-teman semuanya. Suara saya kedengeran nggak?
Kedengeran.
Baik teman-teman, terima kasih sudah hadir di workshop kali ini. Ini merupakan workshop kedua di tahun 2021. Namun sebelum saya memperkenalkan diri lebih lanjut, saya ingin menampilkan profil Indigo pada tampilan video berikut ini. Silakan Audrey.
The world is going digital. The rapid pace of technological advancement has led us all to the new era of the future. Indonesia is highly expected to be the next giant digital hub in the world. In recent years, Indonesia ranked the 5th largest number of startups in the world. Indigo Creative Nation has been a part of it. From creativity to commerce, our complete process of the framework consists of revolutionary programs. We're selecting potential talents in our established creative camps under Digital Innovation Lounge and Digital Valley across the country, then develop hundreds of selected startup ideas through validation and acceleration programs. These processes are resulting in the best startups that ready to acquire bigger growth and investment. Optimizing synergy between startups, government, corporations, and investors in our creative capital under the name of Metra Digital Innovation. Supported by Indonesia Digital Network and Global Digital Hub, Indigo Creative Nation has been succeeded to establish hundreds of qualified growing startups that are ready to elevate Indonesia's digital ecosystem. We also continue with the promotion activities, allowing the best startups to join the Silicon Valley Immersion Program for further development. The future is here, and we always take part to make it happen. Indigo Creative Nation, digitalizing Indonesia.
Terima kasih Audrey. Perkenalkan teman-teman, nama saya Heri, mewakili Indigo Management. Next, Indigo merupakan sebuah inkubator startup milik PT Telkom Indonesia yang sudah berdiri sejak tahun 2013. Next, di mana kami ketika pertama kali berdiri 2009 itu belum berupa inkubasi, tetapi baru 2013 berupa inkubasi startup. Ini merupakan tahun ke-8 kami menjadi inkubator pertama milik BUMN di Indonesia. Next, kami percaya bahwasanya untuk membangun ekosistem startup digital itu perlu kerjasama yang kami istilahkan dengan 3C, yaitu people, planet, dan juga participation. Maka dari itu, Indigo itu memiliki program yang mana membina para raw talent atau talent-talent yang masih raw, yang masih mentah, sehingga menjadi digital talent. Kami mengkategorikannya terhadap 3 peran, ada yang perannya adalah hustler, hacker, dan hipster. Nah, malam ini merupakan topik-topik terkait dengan hustler. Kemudian untuk membina, sebutlah teman-teman yang tersebar di berbagai tempat di Indonesia, kami memiliki place di beberapa titik di 17 di Indonesia, di mana kami menyampaikan topik-topik terkait dengan hustler, hacker, hipster ini, karena kami percaya bahwasanya talent digital di daerah juga tidak kalah bagusnya. Nah, setelah kami juga membentuk talent yang baru, kemudian kami menyiapkan tempatnya di 17 DILO. DILO merupakan singkatan dari Digital Innovation Lounge, semacam coworking space. Ini ada juga Diva yang merupakan singkatan dari Digital Valley, ini semacam coworking space tetapi untuk startup binaan Indigo. Kemudian setelah kami ada raw talent-nya, kami menyiapkan tempatnya, kami juga melakukan partisipasi atau kolaborasi dengan, kami menyebutnya ABCGM, yaitu akademisi, bisnis, community, government, dan media. Sebagai contoh, bahwa untuk mengadakan workshop malam kali ini, kami kerjasama dengan tim startup lokal. Minggu depan dengan minggu depannya lagi dengan UXID. Jadi hampir tiap minggu, terhitung minggu kedua, itu ada workshop-workshop sesuai dengan tema yang berbeda. Next. Ini merupakan framework dari Indigo Creative Nation, bahwasanya kami memiliki proses pra-inkubasi, namanya Dilo Academy, dan Dilo Academy ini sudah, akan berlangsung tanggal 22 Maret 2021, ya, artinya adalah minggu depan. Setelah itu nanti setelah proses pre-inkubasi ini ada program inkubasinya yang akan dibuka sekitar pertengahan April, jadi teman-teman siap-siap bagi yang punya startup bisa submit idenya pada pertengahan April nanti. Setelah itu, setelah memasuki proses inkubasi, ada akselerasi, kemudian yang terakhir adalah nanti kami akan bantu teman-teman juga go to market, di mana diintegrasikan dengan existing bisnis Telkom atau existing mitranya Telkom. Next. Dari sekian benefit yang ditawarkan Indigo, dari mulai coworking space-nya itu sendiri, funding hingga 2 miliar, kemudian Telkom API, mentoring. Satu yang menjadi keunggulan Indigo sebagai inkubator milik Telkom adalah akses marketnya yang tidak dimiliki oleh inkubator lain. Kami memiliki akses ke 180 pengguna Telkomsel. Kami juga memiliki representatif di 10 negara yang berbeda sebagai Telkom International, dan juga lebih dari 200.000 customer corporate kami, termasuk juga small medium business atau UKM. Jadi bagi teman-teman yang join dengan Indigo, kebanyakan adalah mereka ingin mengincar agar produknya harapannya bisa digunakan oleh market yang telah dimiliki oleh Telkom ini. Next. Dari sekian startup yang kami bina, ini merupakan beberapa startup yang mungkin teman-teman sudah cukup familiar. Ada Privi merupakan satu-satunya tanda tangan digital yang diakui Bank Indonesia sejak 2018. Ada juga Netflix, sebuah intelligent video analytic platform yang sudah digunakan di acara seperti Asia Games dan juga acara-acara global lainnya yang diadakan di Indonesia. Ada juga startup kami Run System yang rencananya akan IPO, jadi betul-betul ini merupakan beberapa notable startup yang dimiliki oleh Indigo. Informasi lebih lanjut, teman-teman bisa lihat di indigo.id/portfolio. Next. Ini merupakan gambaran dari space yang kami miliki. Ini contoh-contoh dari digital space yang ada. Ada Bandung Digital Valley, ada Jogja, ada Makassar, dan juga ada Jakarta Digital Valley. Next. Ini suasana program ketika sebelum PSBB, mentoring dengan para mentor yang sudah kami tunjuk. Next. Kemudian ada kunjungan dari para mentor ke diva-diva yang tadi. Next. Selanjutnya juga ada sesi global mentor, di mana para startup akan mendapatkan sesi mentoring dengan tokoh yang sudah memiliki reputasi di tingkat global untuk ukuran konteksnya adalah startup. Next. Ini merupakan program lain di mana kami mempromosikan startup binaan kami. Misalkan kami ada acara Demo Day, di mana per tahun 2020 selama pandemi kita menggunakannya secara hybrid, online dan offline. Kemudian juga kami akan menampilkan para startup di eksibisi-eksibisi, tapi sama pandemi kami tidak ada eksibisi offline, dan juga ada mengintegrasikan dengan telkom market itu sendiri. Next. Ya, kira-kira demikian profil Indigo. Jadi teman-teman terima kasih banyak yang sudah hadir di workshop kita kali ini. Sekali lagi saya ingatkan bahwasanya untuk batch pertama 2021 akan dibuka pertengahan April. Jadi bagi teman-teman yang memiliki ide startupnya silakan submit di Indigo batch pertama 2021. Selamat menikmati workshop kali ini yang akan disampaikan full dalam bahasa Inggris dan nanti akan dipandu oleh Anggi sebagai MC. Saya kembalikan kepada Anggi. Terima kasih.
Oke, terima kasih Mas Heri yang sudah share informasi gitu. Jadi kita kenalan lebih dalam lagi nih dengan Indigo Creative Nation. Nah, tadi kita kan udah kenalan sama Indigo. Nah, untuk workshop malam hari ini kita bekerja sama dengan startup lokal. Jadi bersama-sama kita akan kenalan lebih dalam juga nih dengan startup lokal yang akan disampaikan oleh Mbak Oli. Silakan Mbak Oli.
Ya, thank you. Nama kuliah. Udah ganti nama ya. Ya, oke. Selamat malam teman-teman semua. Nama saya Lia, saya adalah salah satu initiators dari startup lokal. Startup lokal itu adalah Indonesia's local startup community ya. Kita bikin startup lokal di tahun 2010. Nah, bentar. Jadi startup lokal itu adalah komunitas sebenarnya ya. Kita bikinnya udah lama dan itu based on volunteer. Jadi kita semua volunteer di sini, ada initiators. Saya, Mas Natali, dulu pendirinya tiket.com, ada Mbak Nunik juga, dan ada Harry, Henry, Hasmi juga yang menjadi apprentice-nya kita, jadi penerus gitu. Startup lokal ceritanya gimana sih? Kita dimulai tahun 2010 April, dimulai dari nongkrong-nongkrong di Starbucks. So Lavinia, this is the first time we actually hang out, startup local. So before in 2010, we don't really know what is startups, right? So we kind of hang out and we thought that, hey, what you're doing is actually called startup out there. So if you see a lot of big names actually hang out at this Starbucks, and then the next month we start creating these kind of workshops, and every workshops has 100 more than 100 participants. Also for this workshop there are 200 participants, right? So we're just waiting for them to come in. So if you want to know more, you can see on the link. So this workshop, of course, the question on how to be a startup founder is all about action. And for me, action, you need a very structured action. And my favorite method is OKR. And with us right now is a very good friend of mine in Bali, Lavinia, that will go through all the how to create your OKR, objective key results. And with that OKR, hopefully you can really, start your own startup, create a campaign, whatever, right? With a much better results. I hope you listen to her and of course act, and follow all the workshops. Thank you so much, and don't forget to follow at Startup Local ID. And thank you, Lavinia, for being here.
Thank you so much for
Makasih.
inviting.
Back to you, Anggi.
Oke, thank
Thank
you
you.
Mbak Lia yang sudah memberikan informasi tentang startup lokal. Nah, sebelum kita mulai workshopnya, saya akan memberitahukan nih, saya ingin mengapresiasi teman-teman yang sudah hadir malam hari ini, yaitu teman-teman yang sudah hadir dan juga sudah registrasi di Goers akan mendapatkan e-sertifikat. Nah, untuk caranya, teman-teman harus mengikuti pretest dan juga post-test. Bagaimana caranya akan saya pandu. Silakan Kak Audrey untuk tampilkan presentasinya. Nah, di layar teman-teman semua sudah terdapat link dan juga barcode yang bisa kalian akses. Silahkan boleh di-scan dulu barcode-nya atau diketik juga link-nya. Sudah ada juga di kolom chat. Dan next. Kalau teman-teman sudah berhasil mengakses, nanti akan dihadapkan pada 2 pertanyaan. Apa itu kepanjangan dari OKR? Dan next, apa perbedaan dari KPI dan juga OKR? Silakan dipilih jawaban yang menurut teman-teman benar. Dan next, pastikan teman-teman untuk submit pretestnya. Gitu. Jadi pretest ini berguna untuk mengetahui seberapa jauhkah pengetahuan teman-teman terkait topik workshop yang akan dibawakan malam hari ini. Gitu. Next, selanjutnya teman-teman boleh mengisi. Saya akan berikan waktu selama 1 menit. Dan pastikan untuk teman-teman submit dan menggunakan email yang sama dengan email yang digunakan ketika registrasi di Goers. Kalau begitu, silahkan diisi pretestnya 1 menit dimulai dari sekarang. Baby girl, what's happening? You and your ass invited, so gonna get to clapping. Go pop a phone, play, pop it for me. Turn around and drop it for a plan. Drop it for me. I'll rent a beach house in Miami. Wake up with no jammies. Lobster tail for dinner. Julio served that scampi. You got it if you want it. Got it if you want it. Said you got it if you want it. Take my wallet if you want it now. Jump in the Cadillac. Girl, let's put some miles on it. Anything you want, just to put a smile on it. You deserve it, baby. You deserve it all. And I'm gonna give it to you. Gold jewelry shining so bright. Strawberry champagne on us. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Lucky for you, that's what I like. That's what I like. Oke, terima kasih teman-teman yang sudah mengisi pretest. Pastikan untuk mengikuti workshop ini dari awal hingga akhir, karena nanti di akhir ada satu syarat terakhir untuk mendapatkan e-sertifikat, yaitu dengan mengisi post-test. Nah, teman-teman, siapa yang udah nggak sabar mau ngikutan workshop malam hari ini, coba boleh komen dulu di kolom chat. Pada udah nggak sabar nggak sih gitu. Boleh ketik di kolom chat kalau misalnya nggak sabar. Nah, teman-teman mungkin udah lihat juga bahwa bersama kita semua di sini sudah hadir Lavinia selaku managing partner dari Live.it. Oke, kita langsung saja panggilkan. Please welcome Miss Lavinia.
Hi, selamat malam semuanya. I guess it's malam for all of us, right? At this point. Thank you so much for the invite, Startup Local and Leah and organizers. It's an honor to be here and talking to you tonight and sharing a little bit about what I've learned working with OKRs and teaching OKRs to other rapidly scaling startups. So I'm going to try to share my screen to see if everything is working fine. So, can you tell me if everything looks fine on the screen and the slides are moving?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk tonight about how to set effective OKRs for your startup and how those are different from KPIs and so on. I'm always really happy to get questions, or if somebody thinks where something is not clear, or we're going too fast through the material and so on. So I will ask the host if we have those questions to read them out to me, so I don't have to switch to the chat all the time. I'm going to minimize this so you have a better view on your screens. And I'm going to start by saying hi. So I'm the managing partner at Livit International. We are a support ecosystem for entrepreneurs and for startup teams. We are physically located in Bali, but we also have operations and teams all across the world. And we have been working remotely for far longer than just the pandemic. And we incubated companies that are now valued at $200 million or more, and hundreds of team members across multiple continents in the world. I'm also the founder of Remote Skills Academy, which is an education impact-based project for Indonesians who want to learn to work remotely and acquire the skills and the network to do so. I am normally based in Bali for most of the year, and I am also, for a part of the year, I'm a location independent or remote working entrepreneur. So I'm happy to hear any of your questions about that in the Q&A section too. I've lived in 8 countries on 4 continents, and I'm very happy to call Indonesia my second home. And I'm a massive future of work enthusiast. I'm very excited about how work is changing. And I've worked remotely in some shape or form for about 10 years now. So getting right into it, OKRs. I know that there are various levels of knowledge here. I could see in the voting section that some of you already know what OKRs are, and some of you want to learn about it tonight. So I'm going to go through the basics and then focus a little bit on the kind of practical part as well. So starting with the basics, the meaning behind this acronym is objectives and key results. It's a goal system that was initially created by Intel, and it spread like fire around Silicon Valley, and it is now used by Google and Spotify, LinkedIn, Airbnb, and many of those big names that we used to call startups but are now big corporations, basically. And in a few words, it's a simple tool to create alignment and engagement around measurable goals. So there's nothing worse than a company where everybody, or a project or a team where everybody's working hard, but everybody's going in a different direction, right? And this is one of the systems that can solve that problem very well if it's applied effectively. And we're going to talk tonight about how to do that. So, of course, the question is, how is it different from other traditional methods? There are SMART objectives, there's MBO, there's all kinds of other types of management of goal setting and objectives. So a few things that set OKRs apart is the fact that they are agile. So quite frequently set and frequently tracked and re-evaluated. So usually they're set quarterly and they are tracked in some teams every week or sometimes even more often. So it's a simple, pretty fast moving process that engages everybody's perspective and creativity in the company. And for those of you who have ambitions of growing, fastly growing companies, right? This is very important because it's a system that scales very well. I see that Wildan raised his hand. Do you want to tell us if you want to ask something, or? So another thing about OKRs is transparency. So everybody can see everyone's OKRs in a team, in a project, in a company. Some of the companies I've worked with and taught OKRs in are a few people. Some of them are at hundreds of people right now. And the main benefit of OKRs is creating alignment, ensuring everybody is going in the same direction, as I was saying, with very clear priorities in a constant rhythm. The formula for how one of these objectives sounds, objectives and key results, is I will as measured by. So the I will is the objective part as measured by the key results, right? So of course, in a larger company, it can get pretty complex to set OKRs for the whole company and align them. But at the very core, OKRs are a very simple process. It's basically all on the slide, right? I will do this as measured by, and we will look in a minute at some examples. So the first part of the OKR acronym, the O, so it's objectives. And this is generally a memorable qualitative description of what you want to achieve, right? So we want to make them simple, short, and easy to memorize. And a good test is that if you have to stop to breathe while reading your objective, you are doing it wrong. So if it's like a long phrase that has lots and lots of words in it, and you would never remember it by heart, it's probably not the best objective, right? So again, it should be simple, short, and easy to memorize. Also, an objective should motivate and challenge the team, right? And it should also reflect the company or the team culture. So it shouldn't be boring. You can use slang, you can use internal jokes, you can use humor, you can use whatever is normally used in your team in a colloquial conversation, because we want to connect with these things that we want to do, right? We don't want them to sound corporate and very kind of formal and so on, because they become just another one of these very serious things that we're doing, and perhaps we don't feel a very good emotional connection with. The key results are a set of metrics that measure your project to progress towards the objective. So generally, for each objective, you have a set of 2 to 5 key results. If it's much less than that, it's not great. If it's a lot more than that, it's also not great, because it becomes quite hard to track. So an example would be, I'm trying to move this down. So an example would be delight our customers, right? So this is a good, inspirational, short, simple objective, but it's also a big, quite vague objective. So how are we going to do that? So the way we're going to measure that in this example is to, for example, reduce revenue churn or cancellations from 25% to 15%. All of this are, of course, rhetorical examples, right? Do not take them literally. Or to increase net promoter score from 40% to 70%. Or improve average weekly visits per active user from 5 to 8. Increase non-paid organic traffic from 5,000 to 10,000. Or improve engagement or users that complete a full profile from 35% to 70%, right? So that short, simple, very attractive objective is then broken down into how we're going to measure the success of that we're having in achieving that objective. Going forth, a few important aspects. OKRs are not your day-to-day tasks. So they should not be a list of they should not be your to-do list. They should not be what you're planning to do every day. They should be ambitious, and 100% completion rate generally means you weren't ambitious enough, right? So we want to dream big with this OKRs. We don't want to be hitting the numbers all the time. And this might sound to you a little bit counterintuitive, right? If you're used to traditional goal setting methods, or if you're used to SMART objectives and so on, it sounds a little bit counterintuitive. Why shouldn't we want to have 100% completion rate? But if you think about it, when we aim for things that are safe, right, and reachable, we are not as ambitious as we could be, right? So in the OKR methodology, 60 to 70% is the sweet spot. Of course, if you're very ambitious, sometimes you will have less. If you have a major breakthrough, sometimes you will have 100% and it will be fully achieved. So there are various cases, but in general, on average, you would want to be in the sweet spot of 60 to 70%. That shows you're ambitious enough, but also realistic enough, right? And OKRs can be done and planned and coordinated using something as simple as Excel or Google Docs, or you can take it to the next level with a dedicated tool such as 7G, Suite Done, and so on. There are lots of tools out there. So in a bigger company, what's going to happen is that you will have cascading OKRs. So in this image that you see here, for example, the purple ones are OKRs for the entire organization. So they are company-wide OKRs. The green ones are department or team OKRs, and the blue ones are personal OKRs, right? So basically what happens with OKRs, which is very interesting, is that you have both a process that is top down, but also bottom up, right? So the company can decide a few priorities that are important for that quarter and give a direction. And then everybody else from the bottom up can also brainstorm how they want to contribute to that. And they can kind of collaborate with each other and align with each other on how they're going to happen. This is an example of process at Livit. So at the end of each quarter, we have a reflection time where we are going back to the why, or to the core mission, vision, however we want to call it. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we having a company? Why are we a team in the first place, right? And that's a great thing to do every quarter to remind yourself of the important things, right? Sometimes we use sometimes we lose the compass, right? Because life is busy and hectic, right? And then the next step is that we brainstorm ideas on what the team feels needs to be worked on. So we're saying, okay, where we are right now as a team, what do we want to work on in the next quarter? What are the things we want to improve, or the new things we want to do or implement, the innovation, the problems we want to solve, and so on. And then we enunciate the company OKRs. So the big priorities, the purple ones in my previous example. Some examples here were hire the best talent from an office in Canada, or grow total revenue to 5 million USD, or build a user base to 1 million users. These are very, very big goals that are shared by the entire organization, right? And then what we do is that we have a 1-week process of drafting with the team and personal OKRs. So there are lots of cross-team meetings and negotiations. And sometimes to an outsider, it might look like this is a waste of time, but actually it is a time saver, because it saves so many pointless projects and tasks and moments of confusion where we don't know how we align and what we're working towards, and so on. So my general advice, not only regarding OKRs, but in general for your startups, the time that you put in strategic thinking, in aligning, in prioritizing, in being very smart about what you invest your time and resources in is an investment. It's not a cost, it's an investment, because it absolutely pays off later on in the quarter and in the year when everybody's working on the right things rather than working on 17 things that we will end up throwing to the trash bin. We then go to the next step where we store the OKRs in the system and then get to work. And then everybody knows what to prioritize and what to work on for the next quarter. So once again, we are a company that has used this for many, many years now. And we are used to the system. Of course, this doesn't have to be complex in the beginning, but this is kind of a logical progression of how things can look like when you want to coordinate an entire company to align to the strategic priorities. Going forth, so OKRs and KPIs, I know that's always a big question. So I figured I would put them side by side. So we have objective key results and key performance indicators, right? And a few differences, right? Or things that are quite specific to each of them. OKRs are ambitious goals, right? As we were saying, we dream, we aim big, right? We don't even want to go to 100%. We want to dream so big, it's only realistic to get to 60 to 70%, right? KPIs are generally attainable goals. They are based on previous results, on things that we know we can reach. OKRs are qualitative in nature, and KPIs are quantitative in nature, right? So of course, in OKRs, there are going to be measurements and numbers as well. But what we want with OKRs is to basically increase the innovation, the processes, the problem solving, and so on. So it's a shift in quality that we're looking for, right? And with KPIs, for example, we are more focused on the numbers themselves, on the quantitative part. Again, OKRs is a motivation tool. So it shows the team where we want to be and where we're going and what we're dreaming about. And then KPIs are a performance evaluation tool, which is very often linked to compensation and so on, especially in sales teams and so on. OKRs, again, are growth oriented. So we're always going to have within OKRs things that we want to do different, things that we want to grow in, things that we want to innovate. And KPIs are output oriented, right? So they're just, around relating to recurring tasks, to things that we do every day and so on, while OKRs help solve problems and drive innovation, as I was saying. A few examples of KPIs. So a few examples of KPIs are your web traffic numbers, net profit margin, right? Average reply time, revenue per client, conversion rates, attendance if you're running events or classes and so on. And I would love now, because I really want to engage with you and learn a little bit about the businesses or the ideas that are here. What other examples of KPIs do you have? Like, what other things are you tracking in your business? If you can put them in the chat box or unmute yourself and share. NPS, great. Which one should be developed first, KPIs or OKRs? Very good question. I will discuss a little bit more about this in the end. It's the trick answer, right? Of it depends, right? It depends on exactly what you're trying to do. I would say, yeah, it's if you're looking at innovation, probably you want to work with OKRs first. If you have, for example, investment and you want to innovate, you want to develop something new and so on, OKRs should probably be your priority. If you want to make sure that you get some organic numbers in, that you have some sales, if you're bootstrapping, for example, and you're trying to make ends meet with the money that comes in every month, probably KPIs should be your priority in the beginning. So it really depends on what kind of business you have, what kind of funding you have, and what kind of runway you have, right, for money. So how do you measure OKRs and how it influences you as a remote organization, and particularly during the pandemic? So you measure OKRs in a variety of ways. There are numeric OKRs. We will look in a minute at examples, and we will work on examples, and I can tell you more about that. You can measure something as being complete or incomplete. You can measure something in percents. You can measure something in units, and so on. So it depends a little bit on the tool that you use. The one that I use in particular, which is called 7Gs, has, if I'm not mistaken, 4 ways of measuring the progress of an OKR. And it's great because you can adapt it based on what kind of objective you have. But I would love to hear a little bit more about what kind of KPIs you have in your team, and then we can take a lot of this bigger questions in the Q&A section. So I see somebody's looking at NPS, and any other types of KPIs you use? Numbers of active users, perfect. Yeah, that is a very good KPI. Anyone else? Just revenue generation, perfect. Yeah, that is financial side is entirely reliant on KPIs generally, right? One, repeat customers or returning number of sales, perfect. Yeah, very good numbers. In the world of apps and tech, a lot of these things are very easy to measure as well, right? It's not manual. You just log into a system and you get it out of there. Yeah, super, great examples. So I'm going to go back to this, and we will have plenty of time for questions, for more questions in the Q&A part. I just wanted to make sure that we have the KPI part, like being reminded before we go forth. So now let's see, how do KPIs relate to OKRs, which is a question I get a lot, right? So the KPI dashboard is like your car's dashboard, right? So on your car's dashboard, you can see, for example, do you still have enough oil? How much fuel you've got left? Is the engine working well, or is anything blinking, right? And then OKRs are your navigation software, right? So for example, if your fuel level, which is a KPI, indicates that you're running out of gas, you need your navigation software to get you to the closest gas station. So you need, KPIs are a way of understanding how you're doing day to day right now, and OKRs are a navigation system towards innovation, towards problem solving, towards getting better at what you're doing. A very, very specific example is a KPI some of us have our conversion rates, right? How many people who visit our app, our website, our building, or whatever, how many of them convert into clients? So for example, I can see that the conversion rates are low, right? That only maybe 10% of the people who are visiting are converting. So then I can come up with an OKR on how to innovate or improve that. And again, I have a question to you because I want us to think together. So in this particular example, I'm looking at conversion rates, they're low. So that's my car dashboard, right? And then I want my navigation system, my OKRs, to help me get out of that, right? So let's brainstorm together. How could that sound? How could that OKR sound that is helping me improve my conversion rates? Because I can see on my dashboard that we're not doing well. Any ideas? Help me get out of my conversion problem. Who here has ever had a conversion problem? And what did they do about it? So I can see a KPI that a lot of people mentioned something around is number of sales, customer, repeat customers, active users, and so on. What if I'm looking at the dashboard of the KPI and those numbers are low? Improve the UI call to action to be simpler from 5 steps to 2 steps. Great. So this could be a one of your, let's say, key results or one of your actions that you take towards that, right? So probably what you want to look at a higher level is to decrease friction, right? So to have less obstacles for your users to subscribe, register, use your product, and so on. Great example, Rune. Thank you for that. Any other example of what I can do to deal with my conversion rate? What kind of OKR I can put in place? So I will as measured by. So probably the OKR should sound like I will improve my conversion rates from, let's say, 10 to 30% as measured by. What do I want to have in there? Perhaps I want to get more users in, right? So I can put up some campaigns to bring more users in. Perhaps I want to refine my message to make sure that it's more appealing to the right audience, right? So that's another project, another key result, another action I can take. Perhaps I want to, as Edwin is saying, advertise more or have some promotions, have some specials, have some things that that make my product or my tool very attractive to the audience. Lesser the time of customer acquisition from 10 days to 5 days. Amazing. Yes, this is an amazing key result that that you can use to measure improving that conversion rate. Great. So so you guys know those things already, and this is kind of how it sounds. So we're looking at the KPI dashboard and we're saying this number right here is not looking great. I'm taking that and formulating an OKR around it with very clear key results to make sure that I improve, I innovate, I problem solve on that. Thank you for everyone who contributed. Great examples. So a visual of what I was just saying. So OKRs are this like progression, right? That brings you to the big medal or the market leaderboard or so, right? So there are things that we're improving, we're innovating, we're solving every quarter, every month. And KPIs are more like the dashboard that we're looking at if we want to know how we're doing, if we want to know if the car has enough oil, has enough fuel, has been maintained, and so on. So now let's practice a little bit, right? So let's draft 2 OKRs. So one would be a personal one, something you can work on your own. So once again, I will as measured by. So I will improve XYZ, I will launch XYZ, I will solve this problem as measured by this key results. And then I would challenge you to draft a team or a company OKR, which is something that perhaps you have a team and you would like to work on with your team, or perhaps you can think rhetorically, if you had a team, what would you like to work on? So I am here for questions and feedback, or to go back to supporting slides. I think we can also share the presentation if anybody wants to go back on it. But let's draft this OKRs, and I would love to hear them. Either unmute yourself or put them in the chat box, and we will discuss some of them and give feedback and input to each other. So I'm going to stop sharing. One personal OKR and one team or company OKR. There are no stupid ideas, so let's discuss all of them, even if you're unsure. Let's practice this, and then let's also see how you could measure the progress of that. And I can give you a few suggestions and examples. I can see there are a few questions already. We will have the Q&A section, and we will address hopefully most of them. Take your time. We can take 5 to 10 minutes to think about this. These are important, and sometimes they don't come right away. So take a few minutes to think about it, and then please share, and let's discuss.
Oke, teman-teman, mungkin saya akan bantu menjelaskan ya dalam bahasa. Jadi, teman-teman di sini bisa membuat draft OKR, di mana contohnya tadi sudah dijelaskan juga sama Miss Lavinia, gitu. Jadi, silakan buat OKR yang personal, gitu. Jadi, sesuatu yang teman-teman bisa buat atau teman-teman bisa kerjakan secara mandiri gitu. Dan yang kedua adalah OKR untuk tim atau company gitu. Jadi sesuatu yang teman-teman bisa kerjakan secara bersamaan bersama tim atau bersama perusahaan teman-teman gitu. Jadi silahkan nanti mungkin kalau ada teman-teman yang mau present gitu atau ingin menjelaskan, langsung raise your hand aja gitu. Jadi nanti bisa langsung dievaluasi nih sama Miss Lavinia gitu. Oke, mungkin kita sambil dengerin lagu kali ya. Miss Lavinia, is it okay if I play music for them? Okay. Mungkin nanti.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Kita akan nyalain musik ya sambil teman-teman praktis draft OKR-nya.
Yes, you can, Melia, you can write the OKR here in chat. And I think it's easiest if we can read it, and then together with the key results, and then we can discuss it. We'll just give a few minutes to everybody to work on it.
so beautiful, and I tell her every day. Yeah, I know, when I compliment her, she won't believe me. And it's so sad to think that she don't see what I see. But every time she asks me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'Cause girl, you're amazing, just the way you are. Yeah. Her lips, I could kiss them all day if she'd let me. Her laugh, she hates, but I think it's so sexy. She's so beautiful, and I tell her every day. Oh, you know, I never ask you to change. If perfect's what you're searching for, then just stay the same. So don't even bother asking if you look okay. You know I'll say, when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change. 'Cause you're amazing, just the way you are. And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'Cause girl, you're amazing, just the way you are.
So if you already have some drafts, if you already have some drafts for the OKRs, yes, please start putting them in and we can start looking at them. If you have not finished, please continue to work on them. I will start looking at the ones that are in the chat. So I'm looking at Sonny's now. So personal OKR, I will expand the market as measured by, number 1, more city and potential customer database. Number 2, market research in new cities. Number 3, pros and cons in expanding the market in each city. I think your personal OKR is a very good intention. So expanding the market as measured by, but you're saying measured by, and then I'm lacking numbers, right? So again, you're going in a good direction. So more city and potential customer database, but tell me how much more. So for example, we want 50% more city and potential customer database, for example, right? Or market research in new cities, perhaps market research in 5 new cities, right? So how are you going to measure that, right? And pros and cons in expanding the market in each city. Again, it's great if you put a number in there. So having pros and cons in expanding the market in each of the 5 cities or 7 cities or 10 cities that you're talking about. So again, good intention, you're going in a good direction, but please add more. When you say as measured by, show me how we're going to measure that, right? Like what are the numbers, what are the percents, what are the things you want to increase and by how much, right? So again, if I look at, I will share my screen again, just very briefly to show you the example that I was quoting. So right here. So as you can see in this example, delight our customers, right? So we have reducing revenue churn, but we have percent. We have increasing the net promoter score from where to where is it now, right? Improve average weekly visits. It's not enough to say improve. We're going to look at how much, right? Increase traffic from where to where, right? So make it easy for yourself to measure these things, because otherwise you're going to look halfway through the quarter, you're going to look at it and be like, did we do this? Did we not? Did we increase? Did we Are we static? Well, we increase only by 3. Is that enough or not, right? So what you want to do with the OKRs is to help your future self to make it really easy to know if you've succeeded, right? So thank you for sharing, Sony, and you're almost there. Ruben Eduardo, so team company OKR, increase current user or client satisfaction score from 30% to 80%. Great example, and under that you can have a variety of different projects or numbers you want to increase and so on. Personal OKR, I would love to see, Ruben, some key results you're thinking of in there, right? Like what goes under it. How are you gonna, I will do this as measured by, right? Personal OKR, improve the response time for CS tickets to be resolved, given feedback from maximum 5 days to 1 day. This sounds, it could be a personal OKR, but it sounds more like a key result to me. So what you could say is improve the client satisfaction, right, as a personal OKR, as measured by, we are improving CS tickets to be resolved within maximum, from 5 days to 1 day to improve the response time, right? Again, very good direction, just refine a little bit, right? So I will do this as measured by, and again, we are looking at 2 to 5. So again, in this example, you can see that we have the objective here, short and sweet, right? And the key results, which can be 2 to 5, right? In this case, it's 5 of them because I wanted to give a lot of examples, but you can have 2 or 3 or 4 as well. Okay, Irene, so personal OKR, to improve service delivery time. Again, great if you are in charge of the whole thing and you can single-handedly do it. You can also collaborate with people in the company, great. Key result, NPS, service delivery from 30% to 60%. So increase, always try to have a verb in there as well, so it's very clear, right? So increase or accelerate or raise, or in this case, I guess it would be increase service delivery from 30% to 60%. For the team, accelerate product adoption rate. Key result, enhance user experience by reducing onboarding time from 60 to 30 minutes. Great KR, I would recommend. So if you want to accelerate product adoption rate, that is a great key result, but perhaps you can think of a couple different things you want to look at, right? So I don't know, maybe campaigns, maybe a promo that you want to do for people that adopt the product in a specific month and so on. So always try to have 2, 3 at least initiatives so that you have different angles that work towards your OKR, right? Melia, development division, launch new features and programs every 6 months. Launch new features and programs every 6 months. This sounds, Melia, this is a great idea, but this sounds a little bit like it's a recurring thing, right? So for an OKR generally is focused on a specific quarter. So you probably want to say launch 3 new features and 2 new products this quarter, right? So you want to make it very focused, very specific, right? It's great to have this idea of having a recurring number you're going for, but let's talk about this quarter, right? Like how many of them do you want to go for this quarter? And make it very ambitious, right? Marketing division, increase public acknowledgement of Bintang Kecil application by 10% every month and achieve sales target of 10% every month. So they are definitely ambitious. I'm assuming ambitious objectives. Sounds good to me. I would love to see how you're going to measure that. So what are the key results that go under there? So for example, how are you going to measure that you increase the public acknowledgement, right? So are you going to do some surveys? Are you going to do some market research? How are you going to look at that, right? And make it more specific, more like a plan to say so, right? And product division, increase content by 20% every month. So I'm just going to assume you're talking about every month of a quarter. You generally want to focus the OKR on a specific quarter, reevaluate, and then take it from there. Sounds good. I would love to see some key results. Like how are you going to measure that from multiple angles? We have quite a few more. So I'm going to take 5 more, and then we go to Q&A. And in the Q&A session, you can, of course, ask your questions specific to your personal, to your OKR examples as well. I'm just going to read 5 more, so we move on to Q&A 2. So personal OKR, Arini. I will be 10% more productive as measured by reduced Netflix time by 50% from 2 hours to 1 hour per day. Amazing, great. So more productive, exactly what are you going to do to do that? Finish average book pages each month from 50% to 100 pages and complete 10 daily to-do lists. Great. So this is the great personal OKR relating to productivity. Arini is telling us exactly what they want to do and how they're going to do it. So that's great. Nailed that. OKRs can absolutely be used for personal productivity, personal development, personal parts as well. And I often do that. Career development goals, personal development goals can very much go into your OKRs because it's a way of, again, prioritizing and going after your very specific goals for a specific quarter. Rahmad, company objective, improve product stability and team KR, ensure API response time within 400 ms. That's great. Increase crash free from 92 to 96%. Great. And then so we know exactly what he wants to achieve and how are they going to do that. Personal KR, personal, Rahman, is that, I'm not sure if that is a KR or an objective in key results. So a refactor transaction module to increase response time. Oh, it goes under the company objective. Okay, I understand. Solve 12 from 20 critical bugs. Good way of measuring for sure. So again, we have the numbers. I'm assuming they're quite ambitious, and we have a company one, we have how the team aligns to that, and we have how you personally can contribute to that. Michael, personal OKR, I will study for 6 hours with reading books and use another method. A few things here. So generally in the OKR, you want to indicate why you want to do that, right? So I will improve my knowledge, or I will reach my objectives, or I will have more personal development by studying, and then you continue with the key results, studying for 6 hours and so on. And then I really advise you to not use another method or etc. or so on and so forth, because they are very vague and not specific. So you're not going to be able to measure that. When you look back at it, it's like, okay, use another method. What other method, right? So you can brainstorm some other methods and put them in there, or you can kind of leave that part out, because using another method or etc. or so on doesn't really quite help you, right? So again, okay, Melia, no problem. You're welcome, Sonny and Thompson. And personal from Firlia, so personal, build customer loyalty using company's product. from 10% to 20%. Good. So you want to increase the loyalty, and then for the team, develop product feature to keep customer using products like customer want, maintenance customer by greeting them from per month to per week. I think what I'm lacking here a little bit is having, again, an objective. So build customer loyalty, and then I would want to see underneath the key results. So you use of the product from 10 to 20%, and then perhaps 2 or 3 other things. Again, just going back to that example. So short and sweet objective, and then some key results that are very specific, very numeric. So delight our customers, improve customer loyalty. How you're going to do that? Reduce, increase, improve, and so on, right? But good direction you're going in, Felia. You're almost there. And the last one I will discuss is Juliana's. So company increased number of new active partners from 60 to 100 companies by end of the quarter. Top notch, great objective. I would love to see a little bit more on how you're going to do that, right? So again, so for personal, you're increasing the number. Oh, okay. So you're aligning the personal one, and you're increasing the number of visit and telemarketing from 15 to 20 companies per week. Perfect. And then for the team, quicken the onboarding process for new partners from 10 days to 5 days. Great, actually great. So you've got the big objective, and then you're showing how the team, how you are personally going to contribute to that, and how you're going to measure it. I would suggest adding a couple of more key results just to have more angles to look from, right? So campaigns you can do, different things you can measure to make sure that you have enough information to measure the success of that OKR. So let's open the Q&A session now, and I'm happy to look at more OKRs if anybody has questions, specific questions about them. Please let me know if you have specific questions. Should we go back? Could the co-host help me? Should we go back to some of the questions we had, or how do we want to do this?
Okay, I see many questions that you don't reply or answer them. So
Yep.
I will read it for you.
Perfect. Wonderful.
The first question, wait, I'm just looking for that question. Sorry.
I will, while you're looking, I will just take another one from Hedy. Personal OKR, I want to become an investor someday. That is a great goal. To make it an OKR, we have to make it a lot more specific. So what is that someday? Is it this quarter? Is it in 6 months from now? How are you going to measure it, right? Are you going to network with certain people? What are you going to, how are you going to measure your efforts? So again, it's a great goal. You want to become an investor, but to make it an OKR, you have to make it a lot more specific and measurable. Okay.
I find the question. It's from Amelia. Is there any indication that the OKR we make is good and doable?
Yeah, so generally what we do is that when we implement OKRs in a team or in an organization, we work with we work with a coach that helps people either from within the organization, like we train somebody within that organization that can help everybody else, or from outside of the organization, so we play that role. So that we work a lot on feedback like this, right? On making things more measurable, more specific, making them ambitious enough, aligning them with each other, right? Looking at like what different departments are working on and if that's coming in contradiction and so on. So there is no, I guess there's no test online, right? Where you can just put your OKRs and see if they're right or not. I have in the slides, which will be shared with you, I can show you right now, but I have a variety of really good resources for you. So look for, one second, I'm just scrolling down. So look for this slide that looks like this. There's 7 really good resources that will really help you on this. So for example, there are all kinds of guides, and then there are some examples of OKRs on different departments, on sales, marketing, finance, and so on, to get brainstorming going and to get ideas of how to measure them, right? So you can use tools like this to improve your skill of setting up OKRs. But I don't think there's any test that will tell you it's right or wrong. I really recommend working with somebody who's done it before, or going through all of these resources and just getting really good at that, right? So I would guarantee you that if you spend the time and go through all of these resources and understand them and actually really sort of assimilate them, you will be an OKR specialist pretty soon, right? So do that, or try to work with somebody that that can provide feedback on it. The slides will be out to you after the session, and then also you have my contacts here as well for everyone.
Okay. Before we go to the next question, I will translate your answer, Lavinia.
Sure.
Jadi untuk pertanyaan tadi, Kak Melisa itu bertanya, apakah ada cara untuk mengukur bahwa sebuah OKR itu baik atau bagus gitu ya. Jadi kalau jawaban dari Miss Lavinia adalah cari feedback sesering mungkin gitu, bertanya kepada orang atau tim kalian yang bisa dimintai feedback, kemudian juga cari artikel-artikel atau research. Tadi juga sudah ditampilkan ada sekitar 7 research yang teman-teman bisa pelajari gitu. Nah, okay, for the next question, it's from Aditya. Is there any nonsense OKR that you ever get on your company?
Yeah, quite a lot of them. Usually the usual one is just listing all the tasks you have. So filling in reports every Friday. That's not an OKR. It's not a key result. It's a day-to-day task, right? Or checking my email and responding to everything, or checking the Google Analytics. Those are not OKRs, right? So the most common mistakes would be just listing everything that you have to do rather than thinking strategically. And I just see I see a question that I find very interesting from Dewi Agaputri. So and I will just, because it's very related to that. So is the OKR made only by the leaders, or is it made by everyone in the company? And do you make the OKRs all together at the same time, or do you make it one by one? So I will very quickly go back to the slides and to the process I was showing you that we have. So here, so basically that's a very, very good question, right? So basically what we do is we reflect and go back to what are the things we're working towards. And then we ask the team, what are the things you should think we should be working on, right? So everybody can brainstorm and throw some ideas in there. And then the leadership of the company proposes the company OKRs. And then basically in this part, we have a 1-week drafting with the team and personal OKRs where everybody drafts their own. So for example, let's say, let's go back to the example about delighting our customers. Let's say this is one of the priorities, right? And me as the CEO or managing partner of the company, I say, this is one of our priorities. After consulting it with everybody, I think we should work more on increasing the customer satisfaction, right? But then that is a big priority right there. And then everybody is welcome to start brainstorming on how they can contribute to that, right? So somebody can say, oh, I actually, I think we should send personalized gifts to everybody, right? To remind them that we're here and we're really happy that, that we, that they are our customers. And somebody else should say, oh, I actually think we should work on the user experience. It should be less friction. So it should be easier to, for example, register for an event or for a training and so on, right? So priorities come from top down, but initiatives and ideas go from bottom up as well. So that's why it's a two-way process. So it's very efficient because the entire company can participate to, the entire team can participate to how you want to achieve that, right? Those bigger priorities.
Oke, ini sepertinya menjawab juga pertanyaan dari Arin. Jadi untuk sebuah OKR itu something that we do regularly is not OKR, right, Lavinia?
Yeah, day-to-day tasks are not OKRs. They are your day-to-day work, right? So OKRs are bigger things, innovation, things that we want to try, that we want to change, that we want to implement. Generally outside of our day-to-day, checking emails, filling in reports, and so on.
Oke, jadi OKR adalah sesuatu yang kalian ingin capai ya dalam kurun waktu tertentu. Jadi bukan sesuatu yang kalian biasa lakukan kayak cek email gitu, replay email atau ngadain rapat setiap hari Jumat gitu. Jadi itu adalah sesuatu yang kalian ingin capai gitu. Oke. For the next question,
I see a couple more questions that are very related to this. So just to repeat that, to go back to that. So should we, somebody's asking, Hedy is asking, when we're making OKRs, should we make it alone or together with the team? I really recommend, if you're the leadership of the company, to draw some strategic direction, and then everything else should be collaborative with the team, right? Like, how do you think that you can contribute to that? From customer service, how do you think as a developer you can contribute to that? And then Malana is asking, should I set OKRs from top to bottom or vice versa? So top is the strategic priorities, so the bigger things, we want to delight our customers, we want to have a big launch or whatever. And then the bottom up comes with all the initiatives and projects and ideas. And who should input and update the objectives? I really recommend the entire team. So if a team is basically responsible for something, that team should input and update them. And then if a person is responsible for that, that person should do that. The systems that are all floating out there are, it's very easy to kind of have those things, set reminders to yourself every week, right, to update these objectives and so on. So I hope that covers a little bit of the team part because they were very related.
Oke, jadi untuk OKR itu dibuat kalau bisa dalam satu tim gitu dan dievaluasi seminggu sekali gitu. Jadi teman-teman bisa ngerjain gitu dan buat OKR-nya bareng satu tim gitu, nggak hanya leadernya aja. Oke, you wanna pick some question again, Lavinia?
No, let's you pick this time.
Okay.
Your turn.
What are main OKRs and KPIs that we should build in the first stage in making our startup and to make the team more solid?
To make the team more solid. So I would say, obviously, the first, if you're just working on ideation, right? And you're working on an MVP and you're working on development and so on, obviously, logically, those should be your first OKRs. I really, really also advise when you're focusing on the product, to not forget about the team. While you are hiring your first people, you're also defining the culture of your team. So for example, Asana, I guess a lot of you are familiar with Asana, is one of my favorite tools for project management. And the founders of Asana, actually, one of them worked at Facebook and one of them at Google, I think. And when they first got together, the first thing they did was they wrote the kind of backbone of the code, and then they wrote how they want the team and the culture to be, right? So sometimes when we're very busy building our product and our service, we forget that that is so important, right? Who we're going to hire, who we're going to promote, how do we want to work in this team, what do we want our culture to be? So I really recommend if you're starting your ideation phase, you just got together with a co-founder and so on. Of course, the first OKR should be about developing your product, your MVP, your product market fit, and so on. And then the culture of the team, how do you want your organization, your team to look like?
Oke, jadi teman-teman itu untuk increase atau meningkatkan solid itu bisa dengan berbagai macam cara ya. Sebelum teman-teman fokus ke produk atau apapun, teman-teman bisa fokus ke cara membuat timnya itu menjadi solid gitu. Next question from Rahmat. Do you use a scale to measure end of personal OKR result, like a 5-scale grading to assess personal performance? If yes, let's say we have a scale like this. First, not meet, second, partially meet, and third, fully meet, fourth, exceed expectation, and fifth, far exceed X. How do you define how you define what kind of key result that meets EE or FE?
This is where, I do use met expectations, not met expectations. Generally, most of the teams in our company use that. Has met expectations, has not met expectations. It's an easy way to kind of let's say grade that. And the system that we use, 7 Gs, has a way of literally marking that as having met expectations or not. This is where making key results very measurable is very useful, because then you will know right away, right, if the objectives were met or not. So basically that's one thing, make things as measurable as possible. And then also another thing, when you're more experienced with OKRs, you will realize that sometimes, even when we're experienced, we set up some key results that can be checked, but at the end of the day, the main objective still hasn't been met, right? So perhaps we wanted to delight our customers, going back to my example, and we did all of the campaigns and we improved conversion rates and whatever, but then when we survey our clients, they're still not super happy, right? So we did all of those things in the key results, but we didn't really achieve the thing, right? So this has happened to me a few times. So what I do is that I check in percentually. And then I say, actually, we did all of these things, but it hasn't really met expectation. Like the end goal was not really fully met. And I always, one thing I do with my team, I always ask for detailed comments when we are closing OKRs, right? So at the end of the quarter, when we are wrapping up, not only checking in, but also adding a comment. What did we learn? How did it go? Were the percents good, but the feel that we got at the end was not so good? Or were the percents lower, but we feel like we achieved a lot, right? Does everyone get the same performance score when the OKR team has achieved? That is a bit of a tough question. So what I will say, how we solved this in our organization is that actually what we did is that we never do a team OKR that is shared by everybody. What we do is we do a team OKR that is then split in personal OKRs. So every person knows what their contribution is. So because otherwise things get very murky, right? So it's like, oh, who did this and who didn't do that? So we have company OKRs, team OKRs, and under them personal OKRs with key results that are assigned to a specific person to avoid exactly the issue that you're referring to.
Oke, jadi untuk pertanyaan Rahmat Hidayat tadi, gimana caranya untuk mengukur ya personal OKR yang digabungkan dengan company gitu. Jadi kalau misalnya Miss Lavinia tadi menjelaskan, di mana kita itu harus membuat OKR yang saling terhubung antara company OKR and kemudian tim OKR dan juga personal OKR. Jadi ketahuan dari personal itu siapa yang mengerjakan apa dan nanti hasilnya pun tidak terukur pakai scale ya. Jadi lebih terlihat apakah objektifnya sudah tercapai gitu. Karena kadang ketika kita sudah melakukan gitu ya target-target, tapi kita tuh tidak achieve gitu objektifnya itu sendiri gitu. Okay, the next question is from Michael. What should considered for key result? Is there any tips for that?
Mm-hmm. So I generally really advise for key results to keep in mind the idea of result. So you want as much as possible to refer to not to input, not so much to what you're doing, but to what that results. For example, a key result that says increased traffic by 20% is a much better key result than saying, I'm going to do ads every day, right? That's a good key result. You know, it's a good action to have. You're going to make sure that you always have ads and so on. But in the end, you care about what is the actual result, right? So the outcome of your actions are always make great key results. So anything that has to do with numbers, with increased, with decreased, with like kind of improvements that you've implemented and so on makes great key results. Unfortunately, I cannot be much more specific than that, not knowing your specific project or business, but I hope that makes sense.
Okay, maybe Michael wants to share your personal OKR and talk with Lavinia. Michael. Okay, we wait for Michael's response and we go. Oh, okay. Michael wants to talk to you, Lavinia.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if you want to type or talk to us. Sonny, I'm happy you enjoyed the remarks about the working culture. Very important, right? And we really tend to forget about that when we're busy developing everything and running from client meeting to investor meeting, right? We forget about the team.
Test.
Hi, Michael.
Michael is in here.
Great. Yes, we can hear you, Michael. Please.
Hello, Michael. Oh.
Tadi, maaf Mbak, sebelumnya tadi putus-putus suaranya, jadi kurang kedengeran tadi. Gimana tadi?
Oh, boleh langsung di share aja. Tadi kan Lavinia ingin menjawab pertanyaannya Kak Michael, tapi kurang bisa lebih detail karena nggak tahu OKR-nya itu seperti apa gitu.
Jadi OKR-nya itu personal ya. Jadi tadi saya udah ngirim juga OKR-nya. Jadi ingin belajar selama 6 jam, tapi lebih ada tips untuk menemukan key resultnya itu seperti apa sih? Apakah dimulai dari mana dulu seperti itu?
Oke, jadi dari personal OKR ini masih bingung gitu ya, masih bingung untuk mulai dari
Ya,
mana.
brainstorming-nya itu seperti apa? Seperti
Oke,
itu,
ini
bagaimana caranya?
dari mana itu dari segi apanya? Action-nya kah atau
Action.
Oh, okay. Lavinia, so
Yeah, yeah.
Michael already sent his OKR, personal OKR, that Michael will study for 6 hours with reading book easily and use another method. And he feels like confused how to start doing his OKR.
So I think starting from something like studying for certain hours a week and so on is a good start. I would advise that you rather talk about the outcome. So instead of saying I will spend 6 hours per week studying, you can say I will complete 2 courses or I will finish 2 books, right? Or so the outcome rather than what you will do, right? Because we want to get the outcome, right? If you spend 6 hours studying but you didn't finish any book, you didn't finish any course, it's probably not going to be a very good indicator, right? It's a good start, you can use it, but I would prefer to use results, right? So how many books you finished, how many courses you know, like what were, for example, the grades, if there was grading for the course, did you qualify for a certain type of certificate, things like that, right?
Oke, jadi mungkin buat Kak Michael dan teman-teman, untuk memulai sebuah OKR itu jangan hanya fokus ke seberapa besar action kalian, tapi juga fokus ke hasilnya. Jadi mungkin daripada menulis untuk kayak aku akan belajar selama 6 jam, tapi lebih fokus ke selama 6 jam itu apa aja yang akan dihasilkan. Mungkin untuk dari 6 jam tersebut lebih saya akan membaca buku sebanyak 3 buah gitu misalnya, atau mungkin dari 6 jam tersebut saya akan menyelesaikan 1 course dan mendapatkan e-sertifikat misalnya, seperti itu Kak Michael. Ada lagi pertanyaan?
Oke, jadi lebih ke orientasi hasil ya?
Ya, betul.
Oke, terima kasih. Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, good luck, Kak Michael. Okay, there is more question from Syahrial. Is there any standard point to make on an OKR, just like making a KPI in a company?
I have to say I don't fully understand the question. If we can get a little bit of clarification on that, what do you mean by standard point? So there are, if you mean kind of a list of examples or ideas, I have again sharing here. So you will have at the end of my slides, my contacts, and then this resources. And the last one is OKR examples on departments to get your brainstorming efforts going. So you will find a lot of examples. There is no SOP, no standard procedure that it says this should be your OKRs. It very much depends on what you want to work on, but there are some very good ideas there, if that's what you meant.
Oke. Untuk Kak Syahrial, jadi Miss Lavinia itu kurang mengerti apa maksud dari pertanyaan Kak Syahrial. Mungkin mau open mic dari Kak Syahrial, atau mungkin ada pertanyaan nanti bisa, tadi sudah diberikan search yang mendukung untuk pembuatan OKR dan juga KPI, bisa dicek tadi di ketujuh resource tadi. Nah, next question is from Andra. You have said that OKR should be ambitious, and 60% until 7% is the sweet spot. So Lavinia, basically at the end we expect the outcomes only 60% to 70% achieved as the good OKRs.
Yes, correct. So, so of course, to do that, in the first place, you have to have very ambitious OKRs, right? Of course. So, for example, if you think that improving, let's say, your conversion rate from 10% to 50% is super ambitious, yes, 60 to 70% of that would be very good. But if you set a non-ambitious OKR, you say, oh, I want to improve the conversion rate from 10 to 15. Of course, it's not, like, so the first thing that you have to think about, go big, aim very high, aim very ambitious. And then if you aim very ambitious and you achieve 60 to 70%, it's perfect. In our team, when we are in the sweet spot to 60 to 70%, we are very happy. Those are the best OKRs.
Oke. Kendra, jadi untuk OKR memang 60% sampai 70% itu adalah sweet spot-nya. Jadi kalau misalnya kita menulis OKR dengan outcome 10% sampai 50% dan kita melakukan lebih dari itu, kita akan merasa happy karena mencapai target yang lebih gitu. Okay, maybe this is the last question for tonight. It's from Diki. Until now, my workplace has used KPIs to measure our performance. Until a few months ago, there was a new BOD that came in and asked to implement the OKR, but it didn't completely remove the KPI. Now we have two achievement targets, OKR and KPI, which sometimes have different items and indicators, and it made things confusing at times. Can the OKR and KPI be done together, or should we choose only one?
Absolutely can be done together. Of course, they shouldn't be conflicting. So you shouldn't be expected to do something for a KPI and then do something different or going in a different direction or contradictory for your OKRs. So as I was giving that example, let me actually go back to the slide so we see exactly what I'm referring to of how they can relate to each other. So for example here, so in our company, we also do both KPIs and OKRs, but they have to be very related. They have to logically be helping each other, right? So I will show you again the example here. So example of how KPI can relate to OKRs and how an OKR can actually support the KPIs. So conversion rates, right? A KPI you have is looking at what your conversion rates are, right? And then you can see they're low. So what you do is you work on an OKR where you're going to try new things, you're going to innovate, you're trying to problem solve to improve that KPI, but they're very related. They're working together, right? So KPIs are measuring our day-to-day, progress, month-to-month progress. And when we see that something is not right, we use, as I was saying in this example, with the car, we use the navigation system to go somewhere else, right? So the KPI dashboard is your car dashboard. You see, do I have enough oil? Do I have fuel? Is the engine been maintained? And so on. And if one of those things are not working, I use OKR as a navigation system, as innovation, as improvement to take me there. So the short answer is they absolutely can work together, but they need to support each other and be very connected. They need to not be going in confusing different in different directions, right?
Oke. Jadi untuk tadi pertanyaan Kak Diki, apakah OKR dan KPI itu bisa dilakukan secara bersamaan? Jawaban dari Miss Lavinia adalah bisa, tapi sebaiknya dibuat inline gitu atau saling membantu. Jadi tidak membingungkan dalam proses pengerjaannya. Karena OKR dan KPI sendiri itu seharusnya saling mendukung gitu, untuk dicapai tujuan akhirnya. Oke, Mr. Syahrial wants to open mic and talk to you. Is it okay?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Oke, silakan Kak Syahrial.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, good evening. This is Lavinia.
Hi.
What I mean about the standard point is like in KPI, we know that in sales department we have the indicator KPI. It's like the sales revenue or the pipeline sales management and etc. That's why what I'm talking about. Is there any standard point for the OKR?
There is none. So I understand very well what you mean. Finance or sales will always have some, it's not the same in every company, but there are some standard ones. So I know exactly what you mean. There is no such thing in OKRs because organizations have very different improvement and innovation goals. However, you can use the resource that I'm leaving in the slide deck to get some ideas of what other companies are doing. So I can actually go, let me try to see if I can just quickly go there right now and show you what I mean. Just 1 second. So, but these are not standards, they are examples, right? So use them as such, get inspiration, but you don't have to do those things, right? So, so for example, you have here, I need to get rid of this. Sorry, just 1 second. So basically you can go here and you can see, for example, business development, right? I want to see what kind of examples there are out there, right? So I can see here, expand to European market successfully, and then I can see the KRs, right? And then percent and so on. But these are examples, they're not standards, right?
Okay, I see.
So, and because somebody was asking earlier about having something that makes your like test your OKR, this is the closest thing to it, right? So you can put them here. It's not a perfect system, but you can try, right? So you can say, for example, delight our customers, right? So, and then I can see readability, OKR score, and so on, right? These are some helping tools. It doesn't mean that it's a standard. It can help you, right? So I can say here, increase, for example, conversion rate by 50% from 30% to 50%. I can see that the readability and the score is very good, right? But this is kind of algorithms that just look for numbers and so on. This can have a good score and still be not great OKR for your specific team, right? But it's a good tool. So you have it in the here in the slide deck.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you look deeper into this thing, there's tons of really useful stuff that I put for you here.
Okay. Is there any moment for in Indigo for startup like us to help us to develop our startup project?
Okay.
Indigo?
Maybe I will answer that because it's about Indigo Creative Nation. Untuk business development sendiri sebenarnya ada, tapi harus masuk dulu ke program Indigo Batch gitu yang tadi sudah disampaikan di awal bahwa kami akan buka di bulan April gitu. Jadi nantikan saja infonya Mas Syahrial di sosial medianya Indigo gitu. Kalau bisa daftarkan startupnya juga biar bisa menikmati program tersebut.
Sudah kita daftarkan sih.
Siap.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you Kak Syahrial. Okay, thank you so much, Lavinia. It is the end of our Q&A session. Thank you so much for sharing to us how to make OKR, also KPI. I think we have so much information and much knowledge to maybe do and make some good OKR then.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And OKRs are a powerful tool to have your own priorities and then also align the team with your priorities. And if you spend a bit of time on learning how to do it well, if you want to look into it, there's lots of good resources. Many of them are on the last slide and that I'm sharing with you. And you will be very successful, and you will see that you're working on the right priorities and on the right things. You're also very welcome to connect with me via LinkedIn, to check out our website, and if you're ever in Bali, to come to our hub. This is actually the rooftop of our hub behind me, and you're welcome to come visit us and to stay connected. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Lavinia. Oke, teman-teman, itu adalah akhir dari sesi Q&A dan juga sesi workshop. Tapi jangan kemana-mana terlebih dahulu karena kita masih ada beberapa agenda nih, terutama untuk teman-teman yang ingin mendapatkan e-sertifikat, gitu. Seperti yang tadi sudah saya sampaikan di awal bahwa salah satu cara untuk mendapatkan e-sertifikat adalah dengan mengisi post-test gitu. Jadi mengisi feedback review, pastikan di akhir itu akan ada link yang teman-teman bisa akses untuk mendownload materi dari speaker kita malam hari ini. Jadi nanti melalui pertanyaan-pertanyaan melalui sosial media kami, baik itu Facebook, LinkedIn, maupun Instagram, yang meminta materi webinar atau workshop itu tidak akan kami berikan ya teman-teman, mohon maaf gitu. Jadi sepertinya minggunya itu juga tidak akan membalas DM teman-teman yang meminta materi gitu. Jadi pastikan untuk download sekarang juga gitu, karena aksesnya sekali lagi akan kami tutup jam 12 malam ini. Nah, teman-teman, kita sudah ada di penghujung acara. Kita akan ada sesi foto bersama terlebih dahulu. Yuk, sama-sama kita nyalain kameranya. Oke, silakan teman-teman. Oke, sambil menjawab pertanyaannya, bisa kirim kontak personnya Indigo. Oke, nanti saya akan kirimkan ya, di website juga tertera untuk nomornya Indigo, dan YouTube channelnya ada di Indigo for Nation ID. Oke, sudah pada nyala nih kameranya. Di slide kedua nih belum ada yang nyala nih. Oke, boleh sambil rapi-rapi dulu. Slide kedua ini ada lagi yang mau menyalakan kamera? Okay, Miss Lavinia, we have a documentation session. If you don't mind to turn on your camera. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Okay, we can start in 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, next slide. 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, the last slide. 3, 2, 1. Oke, jangan dulu matiin kameranya teman-teman, karena di Indigo itu selalu ada kebiasaan di akhir sesi workshop itu kita mengucapkan terima kasih untuk speaker kita. Jadi nanti saya akan memberikan aba-aba 1 sampai 3. Silakan nanti teman-teman boleh open mic-nya dan kita akan bilang thank you Miss Lavinia. Oke? Okay, Miss Lavinia, we have some thank you for you. So all the participants here want to say thank you to you.
Oh,
okay?
Wow.
Okay, I will count down in 3, 2, 1. Thank you,
Miss Lavinia.
And startup lokal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih teman-teman semua yang sudah hadir malam hari ini. Saya Andi MC pamit undur diri. Mohon maaf apabila ada salah kata dan perbuatan. Sampai bertemu di workshop berikutnya. Selamat malam teman-teman semuanya.
Malam.
Lavinia, and see you.